All right, let's dive straight into this explainer. Today, we're exploring the glamorous but surprisingly scientific world of lipstick. We're going to use Dr. Chem's incredible, comprehensive analysis to break down the whole shebang. Its history, the actual chemical formulation, and the rigorous lab tests that make sure it's, well, safe to wear. So, here's our roadmap. We'll look at a brief history of lipstick, the anatomy of a formulation, the manufacturing process, lab testing and analysis, and finally, the verdict on heavy metals.
Section 1. A brief history of lipstick. Millennia of cosmetic evolution.
You know, cosmetic body art has truly evolved all over the globe. We're talking about the early red ochre pigments of ancient Egypt 5 millennia ago, biblical accounts of Jezebel, straight through to the intricate plum blossom makeup of the Chinese Tang dynasty. We even see 9th century women in Madagascar wearing a decorative ground wood paste called mésanjani. It really is a universal human practice.
But here's the catch. While ancient populations innovated with whatever natural resources they had on hand, some of those early beauty practices were actually super dangerous to their health.
Alongside relatively harmless and resourceful ingredients, like literally using the pearlescent substance from fish scales to get a shimmering effect, ancient Egyptian cosmetics often utilized severely toxic bromine-based makeup. I mean, it was a literal gamble with their health.
Moving on to Section 2, Anatomy of a Formulation, Deconstructing the Recipe. So, roughly 60% of a lipstick by weight is just wax and oil. Those base elements are absolutely crucial because they give it structure and spreadability. Meanwhile, your pigments, alcohol, and fragrances make up the remaining 25% or so. It's this incredibly delicate balance of hardness, moisture, and color. So essentially, you're painting your lips with a highly engineered crayon.
And by simply tweaking the ratio of these base ingredients, cosmetic chemists can drastically alter the final product. For example, replacing high-oil glossy finishes, which actually often use silicone oil to seal the color, with silica-heavy matte textures that contain far fewer emollients.
Let's take a closer look at the waxes, because waxes are the absolute backbone of the stick. Manufacturers have to precisely balance synthetic waxes like paraffin and azocarite. Why? Well, if azocarite exceeds 10% of the formula, your lipstick will literally crumble into pieces right as you try to apply it. No way you want that.
All right, Section 3. The manufacturing process, from beaker to bullet.
This sequence showcases the precise temperature control required to create the perfect lipstick. It starts with melting the raw materials at 98 degrees Celsius, pouring them into molds, and then rapidly freezing them at -17 degrees. And then it finishes with a half-second open flame exposure to melt away any surface imperfections and create that perfect glossy shine. But before it ever hits the store shelf, rigorous quality control takes over. The final product is subjected to intense environmental and physical stress. In the heat test, it basically bakes in a 130-degree Fahrenheit oven for a full 24 hours. And in the rupture test, weights are added every 30 seconds to ensure it won't just snap on your lips under normal pressure or, melt into a puddle if you leave it in a hot car.
Which brings us to Section 4, Lab Testing and Analysis, Hunting for Impurities.
To analyze the heavy metals trapped inside those thick waxes, scientists use Dr. Chem's fascinating experimental procedure called wet acidic digestion. They take exactly 0.5 grams of the lipstick and boil it in a highly concentrated perchloric and nitric acid mixture for 4 full hours. This literally dissolves the lipstick down into a pure, filtered liquid so it can be properly tested.
Once the lipstick is liquefied, it is fed into a Flame Atomic Absorption Spectrometer. Simply put, this machine uses light and heat to find the exact concentrations of heavy metals, like lead and cadmium, all the way down to the parts per million level.
To guarantee accuracy, toxicologists use strict forensic metrics for their calculations. The limit of detection proves the machine can actually see the metal, and the limit of quantification ensures it can accurately measure it.
Finally, Section 5, the verdict on heavy metals. Is it safe?
To answer this, we'll apply Dr. Chem's analytical framework to a comprehensive study evaluating 20 lipsticks. They took 10 expensive originals and 10 cheap knockoffs from local Iraqi markets to assess the real-world health risks using these exact spectrometric methods.
And the results? Incredibly revealing. While heavy metals like lead were universally present across the board, the price tag didn't actually change the metal concentration. That's right,
There was absolutely no statistically significant difference between the luxury brands and the cheap ones when it came to heavy metals. However, the cheap knockoff brands did test positive for bacterial contamination. Yikes.
Now, to put those heavy metal findings into perspective, these are the strict U.S. Food and Drug Administration limits dictating exactly how much of these trace impurities are legally allowed in cosmetics. Lead, for instance, is firmly capped at 10 parts per million.
Ultimately, the scientific verdict for this sample group is reassuring. The amounts found fall completely within the safe regulatory thresholds, meaning the data indicates no direct, immediate, harmful effect to human health from these specific trace amounts.
However, we can't completely ignore the context here. It's vital to remember that because lipstick is directly applied to the mouth, the average daily user inadvertently ingests several pounds of it over their lifetime. Prolonged daily use means these trace elements can build up and bind to proteins in your body over the years.
Which leaves us with this final thought to wrap up our explainer. As our technology reveals the invisible cumulative effects of these trace elements, how will the cosmetic chemists of tomorrow evolve to guarantee absolute biological safety without losing the vibrant colors we've spent 7,000 years perfecting?